Register, what is the case number? Before we have the accused brought in, what is the case number? This is case the prosecutor of the tribunal against Slobodan Miljkovic, Blagoje Simic, Miroslav Tadic, alias Miroslav, Stevan Todorovic, alias Steve, alias Stevan, alias Monstrum, Simo Zaric, alias Sholaya. More specifically in this case, for today, Milan Simic and Miroslav Tadic, also known as Miro Birko. Very well. Can we have Mr. Simic and Mr. Tadic brought in, please?
Vous donnez des écouteurs à chacun des...
Please give headsets to each of the accused. And while we're doing that, I would like to ask who represents the Office of the Prosecutor.
Yes, Mr. President, I'm Nancy Patterson. I'm here for the prosecution, and I'll have my colleague introduce himself.
And my name is Todorovic.
Avec le micro, s'il vous plaît.
Please use your microphone.
Micro.
Sorry?
Les écouteurs, mais le micro.
You have the headset, but you didn't have your microphone on. Would you please repeat your name?
My name is Todorovic.
Bien. Alors, la défense.
And for the defense, I see Mr. Pantelic.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Here we are again. I hope that I am not boring you. I'm Igor Pantelic.
Tu n'es pas, les avocats ne m'importunent jamais, maître.
Well, you know, lawyers never really bother me.
Appearances here, so I'm acting on behalf of Mr. Milan Simic. I would say just provisionally because according to the position of the registry and the rules, relevant rules, it is possible only to be a lead counsel only in one case. So this is just to help these formalities, and after this initial appearance, Mr. Milan Simic will make a choice about his defense team, who will act during the trial.
Bien, et...
Very well. And Mr. Tadic is being defended by whom? What is your name, please?
Your Honor, my name is Borislav Pisarevic, attorney from Samac and member of the Bar Association of Republika Srpska. And in this case, I represent Mr. Miroslav Tadic. Thank you.
Avant de débuter.
Very well, but before we begin the initial appearance hearing, I would like both of the accused to introduce themselves. One, of course, will remain seated. I would like each of them to state his name, his family name, his first name, his date and place of birth, and his last residence. Perhaps the one who is not handicapped, who could rise and answer the question, please.
Vous m'entendez?
You hear me?
Bien. Alors, vous êtes monsieur...
You are...
Reste debout.
Microphone, please.
Vous pouvez appuyer.
Please let us have one of the guards turn the microphone on.
Le micro, s'il vous plaît. Voilà, très bien. Alors, vous êtes monsieur...
You are...
My name is Miroslav Tadic, also known as Birko, as is mentioned in the indictment. I was born on 12 May 1937 in Novi Grad, in the Odžak municipality, Republic Srpska.
Je vous ai demandé...
I would also like you to tell us what your last domicile is and what your profession is.
I'm a retired professor teacher.
Professor of what? What was your field?
Machine engineering.
Oui.
Zadnje boravište Šamac.
The last residence is in Samac, the Emperor Dusan Street, number 38.
Merci.
Thank you. You may be seated for the time being. I will now turn
Thank you, too.
Milan.
To Mr. Milan Simic, who will remain seated. In the same manner as your co-accused, please state your family name, your first name, the date and location of your birth, your profession, and your last domicile. Mr. Simic?
Ja sam Milan Simic.
My name is Milan Simic, born on 9 August 1960 in Sarajevo. I am economist by profession, and last residence is in Samac in the Republic Srpska.
Bien, nous allons poursuivre.
Very well. We'll now continue with the initial appearance hearing. And according to our rules, we must ask each of you, Mr. Tadic and Mr. Simic, to state who the lawyers are that you have chosen. Mr. Tadic, do you confirm that you chose Mr. Pisarovic? Is that correct?
Da, ja sam
Yes, I have selected Mr. Borislav Pisarovic from Samac for counsel in this case.
Thank you. And you, Mr. Simic, you did choose Mr. Pantelic. Is that correct?
Nous sommes bien.
Yes.
We agree on that. That's right.
La comparution initiale.
I now am speaking to the public gallery as well. The purpose of this hearing is to verify before the judges the fact that the indictment was served on the accused according to the conditions which gave rise to this indictment, which was then confirmed by a judge. We are following the governing texts of the tribunal, that is the statute, the statute of the tribunal, which was set up in 1993, and it says that the trial chamber shall read the indictment to be sure that the rights of the accused are respected, and to be sure that the accused, or that the accused in the plural, have understood the indictment and are then given the opportunity to plead guilty or not guilty. I would also like to point out, in order to make sure that everything is clear and that this is a public hearing, that we are now 2 judges, not 3, as is ordinarily the case, but the rules do provide that the president of the tribunal can make an exception if one of the judges is unable to be present, which is the case today. That is Rule 15 of the Rules of Procedure and Evidence. For the initial appearance, we are governed by Rule 62. The judges must satisfy themselves that the right of each of the accused to counsel is respected, which we have just done, and then we'll read or have the indictment read to the accused in a language he speaks and understands, and satisfies itself that the accused understands the indictment, after which we call upon the accused to enter a plea of guilty or not guilty on each count. I would now turn to Mr. Pisarovic and to Mr. Pantelic and state this indictment with which you are familiar. You did give it to your counsel, did you not? I would like to be sure of this before we read it.
We will discuss all these issues since 1996 with our clients, and as well as these few days when they are here in The Hague. So everything is clear for them.
Mr. Pisarovic.
Mr. Pisarovic?
Mr. President, I believe what Mr. Pantelic just said, I can confirm, since the indictment has been issued, we have been discussing it with our clients, and they are informed and know what it is about.
Thank you very much. I would now ask the registrar to read the indictment. As you have seen, this indictment, at the time that it was confirmed by one of our colleagues, at the time it was Judge Vora, and I believe that was on the 21st of July, 1995. The indictment included 6 accused. 2 are present today. I will therefore ask the registrar to read in public this indictment, but to read everything that involves the general allegations and then the specific parts which deal with each of the 2 accused here today. Mr. Registrar, you may begin to read the indictment, which was issued by the International Criminal Tribunal against Milan Simic and Miroslav Tadic, also known as Miro Birtko.
The prosecutor of the tribunal against Slobodan Miljkovic, also known as Lugar, Blagoje Simic, Milan Simic, Miroslav Tadic, also known as Birko, Stevan Todorovic, also known as Steve, also known as Tivo, also known as Monstrum, Simo Zaric, also known as Sholaya. Indictment. Richard J. Goldstone, prosecutor of the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, pursuant to his authority under Article 18 of the Statute of the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, Tribunal Statute, charges 1. In 1991, almost 17,000 Bosnian Croats and Muslims of a total population of about 33,000 lived in the municipality of Bosanski Samac in the Republic of Bosnia and Herzegovina. By May 1995, fewer than 300 of the Bosnian Croat and Muslim residents remained. 2. On 17 April 1992, Serb military forces from Bosnia and elsewhere in the former Yugoslavia seized control of the town of Bosanski Samac. 3. Because of its location at the northwestern edge of the Posavina corridor, control of Bosanski Samac was important to Serb efforts to create a Serb-controlled land bridge between Serbia and the Krajina Serbs in Croatia and western Bosnia and Herzegovina. 4. After seizing control in the military takeover, Serb authorities undertook a campaign of terror designed to force most Bosnian, Croat, and Muslim residents to leave the area. 5. Beginning on 17 April 1992, Serb military and political authorities coordinated and carried out the following actions as part of that campaign of terror. A. Arrested and detained most of the Bosnian, Croat, and Muslim men in the municipality, particularly the political, economic, professional, academic, and civic leaders. B. Established and operated, primarily under the authority of the Serb police, detention camps where prisoners were killed, beaten, tortured, sexually assaulted, and otherwise mistreated. C. Permitted units of paramilitary soldiers from Serbia to enter the detention camps to kill and beat the prisoners. D. Forced Bosnian, Croat, and Muslim residents to leave their homes and permitted Serb residents to move into the vacated homes. E. Expelled through force or intimidation Bosnian, Croat, and Muslim residents of the municipality to other countries and other parts of Bosnia and Herzegovina. F. Required Bosnian, Croat, and Muslim men, women, and children to work on forced labor projects such as digging trenches and other work at military confrontation lines. G. Robbed Bosnian, Croat, and Muslim residents of their cars, cash, and valuables, and looted their homes. H. Looted and dismantled equipment and inventories of Bosnian, Croat, and Muslim businesses. I. Issued orders prohibiting Bosnian Croats and Muslims from congregating in public and requiring Bosnian Croats and Muslims to wear white armbands to identify themselves as non-Serbs. J. Confiscated the bank accounts of many Bosnian Croats and Muslims and blocked the funds in those accounts. K. Mobilized Bosnian Croat and Muslim men into the Bosnian Serb army and sent them to the front lines. L. Created such an atmosphere of fear and oppression among the non-Serb population that most Bosnian Croat and Muslim residents fled the area. The accused. Sis. Slobodan Miljkovic, also known as Lugar, born in 1953 from Kragujevac, Serbia, was the deputy commander of the 2nd Posavina Brigade, also known as the Grey Wolves, a paramilitary unit from Serbia. 7. Blagoje Simic, born in 1960, is a medical physician from Kruškovo Polje, Bosanski Samac municipality, who is the president of the Serbian Democratic Party, SDS, in Bosanski Samac and was vice chairman of the town assembly from 1991 through 17 April 1992. From 4 November 1991 through at least 30 November 1992, Blagoje Simic was the deputy of the Assembly of the self-declared Serb Autonomous Region of Northern Bosnia, later called the Serb Autonomous Province of Semberia and Majevica, of the Serb Republic of Bosnia and Herzegovina. In March 1992, Blagoje Simic declared himself head of the Serb municipality Bosanski Samac. After the military takeover of Bosanski Samac on 17 April 1992, Blagoje Simic became chairman of the Bosanski Samac Assembly, chairman of the local SDS crisis staff, and president of the wartime presidency. 8. Milan Simic, born in 1958.
Perhaps there's an error here. He stated that he was born in 1960. Yes, continue, please.
Milan Simic, born in 1960, a cousin of Blagoje Simic, trained as an economist, was a member of the 4th Detachment, and after 17 April 1992 became chairman of the executive board of the Bosanski Samac Assembly. 9. Miroslav Tadic, also known as Miro Brko, born in 1937 from Odžak municipality, formerly a teacher, ran the cafe As in Bosanski Samac and served as Simo Zaric's deputy in connection with the 4th Detachment. After 17 April 1992, Miroslav Tadic became chairman of the Bosanski Samac Exchange Commission. 10. Stevan Todorovic, also known as Stevo or Monstrum, born in 1957 from Donja Slatina, Bosanski Samac municipality, was appointed chief of police for Bosanski Samac after the 17 April 1992 military takeover. Before then, Stevan Todorovic was an executive in a bamboo furniture factory. 11. Simo Zaric, also known as Šolaja, born 25 July 1948 from Donja Dubica in Odžak municipality, was a former police chief of Bosanski Samac and State Security Service, SDB, agent who, from 1 January 1992 through at least 31 August 1992, organized and supervised a Serb territorial defense unit known at first as the 4th Detachment and later renamed the 5th Battalion of the 2nd Posavina Brigade. General allegations. 12. Unless otherwise set forth below, all acts and omissions alleged in this indictment took place between about 17 April and 20 November 1992 in Bosanski Samac municipality in the Republic of Bosnia and Herzegovina in the territory of the former Yugoslavia. 13. At all times relevant to this indictment, a state of armed conflict and partial occupation existed in the Republic of Bosnia and Herzegovina. 14. At all times relevant to this indictment, all persons described in this indictment as victims were protected by the Geneva Conventions of 1949. 15. At all times relevant to this indictment, all of the accused in this indictment were required to abide by the laws and customs governing the conduct of war, including the Geneva Conventions of 1949. 16. In each paragraph of this indictment charging torture, the acts were committed by, or at the instigation of, or with the consent or acquiescence of an official or person acting in an official capacity and for one or more of the following purposes: to obtain information or confession from the victim or a third person, to punish the victim or for an act the victim or a third person committed or was suspected of having committed, to intimidate or coerce the victim or a third person, and or for any reason based upon discrimination of any kind. 17. All acts and omissions charged as crimes against humanity were part of a widespread, systematic, or large-scale attack against the Croat and Muslim residents of the municipality of Bosanski Samac. 18. Each of the accused is individually responsible for the crimes alleged against him in this indictment, pursuant to Article 7(1) of the Tribunal Statute. Individual criminal liability includes committing, planning, initiating, ordering, or aiding and abetting in the planning, preparation, or execution of any crime referred to in Articles 2 to 5 of the Tribunal Statute. 19. Paragraphs 12 through 18 are re-alleged and incorporated into each of the charges set forth below. Charges. Counts 1 and 2, deportation and transfer. 20. From about 17 April 1992 through at least 4 September 1992, Simo Zaric and Miroslav Tadic participated in the planning of and preparation for the unlawful deportation and forcible transfer of hundreds of Bosnian, Croat, and Muslim residents, including women, children, and the elderly, from their homes in the Bosanski Samac municipality to other countries or to other parts of the Republic of Bosnia and Herzegovina not controlled by Serb forces. By these actions, Simo Zaric and Miroslav Tadic planned, instigated, ordered, or committed Count 1, a grave breach of the Geneva Conventions of 1949, hereafter grave breach, recognized by Article 2G, unlawful deportation or transfer of the Tribunal Statute. Count 2, a crime against humanity, recognized by Article 5D, deportation of the Tribunal Statute. Counts 24 through 26. Beating of Muhamed Bicic. 27. On an occasion, sometime between about 1 June and 30 June 1992, in the hallway of the gymnasium of the Bosanski Samac Primary School, Milan Simic and several others kicked Muhamed Bicic and beat him repeatedly with iron bars and chair legs. By these actions, Milan Simic committed or otherwise aided and abetted Count 24, a grave breach recognized by Article 2C, willfully causing great suffering of the Tribunal Statute. Count 25, a violation of the laws or customs of war recognized by Article 3 of the Tribunal Statute and Article 3(1)(a), cruel treatment of the Geneva Conventions. Count 26, a crime against humanity recognized by Article 5(i), inhumane acts of the Tribunal Statute. Signed, Richard J. Colston, Prosecutor, and...
Thank you. I will now turn to the accused. That is Mr. Miroslav Tadic. First of all, did you understand the intent and sense of this indictment as it was read to you in your language. Did you understand it? Will you answer me, please? You heard it? You understood it?
Da.
Yes, I have heard the indictment. I did not fully understand it.
You did not understand everything. What is it that you didn't understand?
Ne znam otkud tu...
I don't know what Mr. Luger is doing there. I barely know this man.
Oui, ça, si vous voulez, ça fera...
Yes, that will be part of your defense once the trial begins. For the time being, we are simply referring to charges that were brought against you. And on purpose, I asked the registrar to read only the counts which concern you specifically. But as regards those which do concern you, did you first of all understand them in your own language? Did the interpretation allow you to understand what you are being accused of?
Yes, I did.
Very well. Thank you. You may be seated. Mr. Simic, I ask you the same question. Did you hear the indictment? Did you understand it in your own native language?
Yes.
Very well. I am now going to ask you to plead guilty or not guilty to the various counts which have been brought against you by the Office of the Prosecutor. Mr. Tadic, I'll ask you to rise one more time and ask the registrar to mention once again the two charges against him. And after each of them, simply state whether you have chosen, in agreement with your counsel, to plead guilty or, to the contrary, to plead not guilty. Since you know that this would have different repercussions on the trial. But I wanted to point these differences out to you, and if you do not understand them, I will explain them to you. Mr. Registrar, will you please read the counts against Mr. Miroslav Tadic? Are you having a problem with the microphone? But you've got a very powerful voice. I'm sure that we can hear you. But are things okay? Fine. All right. Please rise. And Mr. Tadic, please rise. Because these are charges against you, and I want you to listen carefully. Now, Mr. Registrar, this is count number 1. A grave breach of the Geneva Convention of 1949, hereafter grave breach, recognized by Article 2G, unlawful deportation of transfer of the Tribunal statute. Unlawful deportation or transfer of the Tribunal statute. Mr. Miroslav Tadic, do you plead guilty or not guilty?
Nisam ni kriv ni za jednu od ta.
I'm not guilty on either of the counts of
Register, please note the fact that the accused has pleaded not guilty. And now, once again, for count 2, a crime against humanity recognized by Article 5D, deportation of the Tribunal statute.
Monsieur Tadic,
Mr. Tadic, do you plead guilty or not guilty?
Nisam kriv.
Not guilty.
Merci. Vous pouvez vous rasseoir, monsieur.
You may be seated. And register, you will note that the accused has pleaded not guilty. Mr. Simic, the prosecutor has charged you with 3 counts, 24, 25, and 26. We will do the same thing. Would you please state count number 24? Count 24, a grave breach, recognized by Article 2C, willfully causing great suffering of the Tribunal statute. Mr. Simic, do you plead guilty or not guilty?
Nisam kriv.
Not guilty.
Plaidoyer non coupable.
A plea of not guilty. Count 25. Count 25, a violation of the laws and customs of war recognized by Article 3 of the Tribunal statute and Article 3.1a, cruel treatment of the Geneva Conventions. Do you plead guilty or not guilty, Mr. Simic?
Nisam kriv.
Not guilty.
Mais quand vous dites je ne suis pas coupable.
When you say that you are not guilty, I hope you understand that I'm interpreting it a certain way. That is, you are choosing in this trial to adopt the attitude of a person who has pleaded not guilty. We do agree with that, do we not? Do we agree?
Yes, yes.
Votre conseil est d'accord aussi?
Does your counsel agree as well?
Pantelic?
Pantelic.
Your Honor, as usual.
Merci.
Thank you. Well, not always, I'm sure. Count 26. Count 26, a crime against humanity recognized by Article 5I, inhumane acts of the Tribunal statute. Mr. Simic, do you plead guilty or not guilty?
Nisam kriv.
Not guilty.
Bien. Alors vous noterez.
Very well. The transcript will note that the accused have pleaded not guilty, and that this means that in the trial there must procedures which follow those of a not guilty plea. This is so that everything is clear. I now turn to the prosecutor to remind her, as we do for each of the initial appearances, to remind her of obligations to disclose all documents which are attached to the indictment at the time of its confirmation, I suppose in support of the indictment, which was confirmed by our colleague Judge Voro. There must have been a series of attachments, as well as prior statements of the accused, that is, or of witnesses. Are you in a position to depose at this moment? I would like to recall that the rules have been modified and that the time period set will, the starting point for 60 days for the preliminary motions has changed somewhat. Turning to the prosecutor.
Yes, Mr. President, we're aware of our obligation to turn over the confirmation material. I do have the material with me in court today. These two envelopes contain the material for the two accused. However, in light of serious concerns that we have to protect the confidentiality of our witnesses and to protect their security and safety, I will be filing a motion immediately after court with the court requesting that the court order special protection of the information contained in the documents concerning the victims and witnesses. I have provided Mr. Pantelic and Mr. Pisarevic with a copy of this motion prior to coming to the chamber today, and I have copies in English and French if Your Honor would like to review them here before I file them with the registrar.
Bien, nous allons voir.
Very well. We'll see how we're going to proceed to deal with that motion. So, what date do you have in mind for the completion of the disclosure of all of the statements, both of the accused and the depositions of statements? Depositions of witnesses, excuse me. Do you think that all of this would be ready by what date? I would like to remind you that the 60-day period will start to run from the point that all material has been given to the defense, everything that is covered by Rule 66A. Therefore, we have to have a date so that I can know that starting from that date, the defense will have 60 days in order to file any preliminary motions that it wishes to do. How much time do you need? About a week?
Mr. President, we're prepared to hand over the supporting material to the defense as soon as the court rules on the protective order. So that material will be made available to them hopefully within the next few days. As far as the additional material goes, we're prepared to follow the rules of the tribunal. We will make the relevant material as available as soon as practical. However, we will abide by the rules that we do not have to turn over the contents of the witness statements we intend to call a trial until 60 days before the trial begins.
Cela veut dire...
Which means that from the time that the trial attorney responds to your motion for concerning protection of witnesses, we could assume then about 3 or 4 days you would be in a position to give all of the material to the defense. Is that correct?
We can provide all of the confirmation material tomorrow, Your Honor, as soon as the court rules on the protective order.
Yeah.
Very well. Can I therefore say that at the end of the initial hearing, and after I have spoken with my colleague, that we might possibly give you an answer this afternoon. I would like to confer with my colleague for a moment.
Bien,
The trial chamber has decided that immediately after this initial hearing, we will adjourn for about an hour and then resume our hearing, at which point we will then decide whether it should be public or not, in order to hear what you have to say about your request and anything that the defense would like to say as well. Any objection to that, Ms. Patterson?
That's fine, Your Honor.
Yeah. Je me tourne.
I now turn to the defense counsel.
Maître Pantelic.
Mr. Pantelic?
Yes, Your Honor, that's fine with the defense also.
Maître.
Mr. Pisarevic?
Your Honors, we agree with this.
Bien. Alors,
I intend to set the date for a status conference for the 17th of March at 2:45, where we will see where things are as regards disclosure of materials. And perhaps at that point, in light of any possible preliminary motions, we might be able to set an approximate date for the trial itself. I would again turn to the accused and ask whether they have any comments that they would like to make. First, Mr. Tadic. No comments about what you heard? Mr. Tadic?
Your Honors, I can only express my gratitude to those who made it possible for us to voluntarily come here without any coercion, especially the staff of the American Embassy and General Zenz, who accompanied us to the airport, and Mr. Shiseki and his deputy Alice, who also assisted in our safe arrival in The Hague. I also would like to thank the staff of the detention unit because they provided very good conditions, and also to the gentlemen who escorted us to this courtroom. They enabled us to view this nice town, and after I'm released, I will seek an asylum here because I like it here very much. Just one more comment. I have established contact with the tribunal 2 years ago. We had intense telephone discussions on several occasions, and I even sent some documents and so forth. However, the reason why there are several reasons why we did not come together here sooner. However, I believe that it's still not too late. So I would like to thank you.
Mr. Simic, have you any statement to make?
You
do not have to if you don't want to.
Yes. I also would like to express my pleasant surprise by the very correct behavior of, first of all, the S4 troops who allowed us to come to The Hague, the Dutch police, the entire staff of the UN detention in The Hague, and I would like to express my thanks to the tribunal and the entire staff for this kind of behavior. I'm also would like to point out that given my physical condition, which makes it more difficult for me to be accommodated, that everybody is going out of their way to help me there. I also would like to add that my decision to come to this tribunal have been around for a while, and it was really my physical condition that prevented me from arriving here sooner. That's all. Thank you.
Very well. I would like to turn to my colleague to ask whether he has any comments. Ms. Patterson, do you want to add something?
Yes, Mr. President, just one thing briefly. Well, we realize that it is up to the defense to make such a motion. The prosecution wanted to bring to the court's attention the fact that should the defense counsel choose to file a motion regarding Mr. Simic for his provisional release, that depending on the arrangements that could be made, the prosecution would look favorably on such a motion, and perhaps the defense might want to consider such action prior to our next meeting on the 17th of March.
Madame Patterson.
Ms. Patterson, I'm very sensitive to the fact that the prosecutor was talking about release. The defense didn't. I'd like to turn to the two counsel. I have not received any request to that effect. Mr. Pisarevic, Mr. Pantelic, first of all, do you want to say something about that?
Your Honor, I think it's... I appreciate this position of the Office of the Prosecutor, but I think it's too early to discuss all these procedural matters. We are thinking seriously about the whole possibility according to the rules, but of course we have some other ideas. Maybe we should discuss that later during the status conference, etc. That's all for the moment. Thank you.
I therefore consider that for the time being that we have not received any request for provisional release of either of the accused, unless, Ms. Patterson, you yourself, you file one, which is requesting the release of the accused, which of course is your right. After all, it was at your request that the accused were arrested. Do you intend to do that? According to which we will work as quickly as we can. Even this afternoon, but we have to be sure that there is a representative of the host country here. What is your opinion on that subject, Ms. Patterson?
No, Mr. President, the prosecution does not intend to file such a motion. As I stated previously, we believe that that is in the purview of the defense to file that motion. However, we have been informed of the physical condition of Mr. Simic. We are aware of his physical condition and his limitations, and because of that, we wanted to bring to the attention of both the court and the defense counsel that if arrangements can be worked out, the prosecution might be agreeable to such an arrangement. But that is a motion for the defense to make, and if they choose not to, then the prosecution will respect that decision.
Bon, alors
I will now summarize things. Provisional release may yet be requested. It can be ordered by the judges themselves, in fact. Proprio motu. It is self-evident in this type of case, a request for provisional release, let me remind you that in this tribunal, it is the detention which is the principle of right, and that release is an exceptional circumstance which has to be the case given the seriousness of the crimes that are being charged here. But this procedure does exist within the tribunal and has been used in other cases. The judge's opinion is that the request, in theory, must either come from those who are responsible for the for the arrest, that is the prosecutor, or the defense which justifies this request. But let me recall it at the time being that we would then have to hear the representative of the host country. And under these conditions, since there is no request which has been presented for provisional release, either from the defense on the part of the accused or on the part of the prosecution for the time being, does not intend to do that because it does not have sufficiently specific medical information. Having said this, I would suggest that we now adjourn this hearing and resume at 4 o'clock in order to argue the request for...
Wil jij voor de V?